We are just a few weeks away from Valentine's Day. Lots of people will be meeting one another or entering into the dating game online, whether that's through social media or a dating app. And that's why we have our fraud experts here from AARP. They're going to get the word out about romance scams and how they can be very tricky. I got to tell you, warning people about romance scams, it can seem like white noise, and AARP just released an ad and it made me laugh, so we wanted to make sure you saw it first.
I matched with this cutie on a dating site. We texted all the time, but never met up. Then he asked to send him gift cards for a plane ticket to see me. And that's when I remembered a tip I got from the AARP Fraud Watch Network. Gift cards? This is a romance scam. Spent that money on self-care instead.
Recognize fraud sooner so your money lives longer. The younger you are, the more you need AARP.
I love it. She knew that it was a scam and spent those gift cards on self-care. Okay, so David Kirkman and Seth Buffelli from AARP join us today to talk about warning signs and what you need to do to protect yourself. So what we want you to do is, while we're talking about these kinds of things, we want you to be able to ask your questions. So the number is 336-379-5775. You can text in your question and you get it answered in real time. All right. David, let's talk about romance scams in North Carolina specifically and the numbers that we know.
Well, it's always been a scam in North Carolina that's caused huge victimizations. And the Attorney General's office told me yesterday that in 2023, the average loss per victim in North Carolina was $53,000. And that's very consistent with the previous year and the years before that.
All right, that's a whole lot of money. And, you know, I think to myself, all right, so let's save some people some cash and some frustration. So, Seth, let's talk about some of the warning signs that people need to be on the lookout for when it comes to romance scams.
Yeah, you know, sometimes it's somebody who's on, say, a dating app, but a lot of times it just comes through a Facebook friend request or a message on Instagram. So some of these messages that come out of the blue are a red flag. The other thing that these scammers will do is they're going to profess their deep love for you right away. They're going to say, I feel like I've known you forever. So that's another red flag, that deep conversation or connection from somebody you've really only known, you know, electronically for maybe a short period of time. One sort of misconception is they're not going to ask for money right away. They're going to let the relationship build and let the bond build. And so a lot of times we hear from victims, they don't think it's a scam because the person hasn't ever asked for anything. But they get that call every day, every morning. They get those wonderful things. One other thing to look out for is, especially if it is a dating app, a scammer is going to want to move you off of that platform. So sometimes they'll suggest texting, doing something like WhatsApp. So that's another thing to look out for.
Right, and they want to move it off of that because why?
Because there's less, you know, there's less oversight. There's fewer eyes looking. You know, we do try to work with some of these companies to do a better job of screening out scammers, and especially these romance scammers who probably have dozens of different profiles with the same set of, you know, they're running this scam with like 10, 15 people at the same time. But once they get it onto, say, an encrypted text conversation, then there's nobody else that's seeing that conversation but them and the victim. And that's where it's the most dangerous.
Gotcha. Okay, so there is a new twist to some of these romance scams, David, and it all deals with cryptocurrency. Tell us about that.
Yes, the typical way that these scams would work is after the person's professed their love and proposed to you, they suddenly have some sort of catastrophe, a legal problem. They've been in a car wreck. They have to pay a bribe to get out of the country they're working in. But now they've shifted over to cryptocurrency scams, and they usually start these scams fairly early in the process, well before they propose marriage, etc. And they talk about this wonderful investment they've gotten involved in, and they show all these documents that purport to show that they made 25% in the last 2 months, and you can get in on this too. And they lure you into, you know, taking just a little bit of money out at first from your retirement or savings account, investing $10,000 or $20,000, and then they'll show on your computer all these huge returns and get you to put in more and more and more until the next thing you know, you've lost your entire savings, your life savings, your retirement income's gone. So that's the latest thing that they're doing now. It's sort of a new twist on an old scam.
Okay, we're going to talk about a whole bunch of scams and how it goes through. All right, let's go through some like kind of 101s of the do's and the don'ts when it comes to dating online, Seth.
Well, I mean, first of all, you don't send money to somebody that you haven't met in person. And second of all, just be aware of, what these scammers want to do is what we call get you in the ether. So get you in a heightened emotional state, in this case, love, so that things that normally would sort of raise red flags with you don't anymore. So somebody who says they want to meet with you, but always has a last minute conflict that they can't be there. Somebody who won't, do a FaceTime call. Those type of things that get in the way of actually connecting. And one good tip for somebody who might be in an online relationship but you haven't seen the person, but maybe they sent pictures, is you can go onto Google, do an image search, take that picture that they've sent you, copy and paste it into Google and do an image search. And a lot of times, if it's a scammer, that picture is going to show up dozens and dozens of times on the internet because it's somebody else that they've copied.
Yeah, and I think that is like one of those big things. Like you said, they try and like move the, relationship along really quickly, and you kind of get swept up in that. But you need to do those things like take a look at that picture and see if Google has it somewhere else.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things that, even do a search, how to do an image search. It's one of those skills that not everybody knows how to do, but it really can save you a lot of time and a lot of heartache just by doing that simple search.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to be taking your questions when we come back. We're going to talk about what do you do if you do become a victim of some kind of scam. And then we're also going to look at some other fraud things as well. Remember, you can text in your question, 336-379-5775.